Good evening, you're watching World News Tonight. I'm Adam Yasser. President Donald Trump is facing a double test of his foreign policy mettle as European allies protest his plans to annex Greenland and chief foe Iran continues the brutal crackdown on protesters. Our correspondent John Todd joins us in the studio to give us the latest on tense negotiations over Greenland. But first, today's headlines. Iran kills scores despite US intervention threat. Poland to seek ban on Russian veterans entering the EU. Europe gives details on the €90 billion loan for Ukraine. US leaders have met their Danish and Greenlandic counterparts in Washington. While we await official statements, John Todd is here to give us the state of play. Hi, John, welcome.
Hello.
So what's the state of play?
Denmark and Greenland have this afternoon been attending a high-stakes White House meeting. Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen, his Greenlandic counterpart Vivian Motzfeldt, attended a meeting with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio that was hosted by Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, given President Trump's continued pressure and threats to take control of the Danish territory, it was billed as a key summit that could shape the Arctic's future. Now, in the hours before this meeting, President Trump reiterated his demand that Washington take control of Greenland, an autonomous territory. Trump says it's strategically located and the mineral-rich island is vital to US security. He says all options are on the table. Now, the Danish and Greenlandic delegation were aiming to de-escalate the crisis. And find a diplomatic solution that would satisfy US demands. Whilst this was going on, the meeting that started 4 hours ago now, and we're understanding it's breaking up, has broken up, we heard from the Danish Defence Minister who told us that Denmark is going to expand its forces in this area. We can listen to him now.
Now we are going to have a larger military footprint, and we are doing so because we believe it is the right thing to do. Also, in relation to the need to have a greater degree of presence together with other NATO allies. This is also something that we have discussed continuously in NATO over the past 2 years, where I myself have strongly argued that NATO needs to take greater interest in security.
So, John, some European leaders are saying we acknowledge US security interests over Greenland, we share them, but at the same time they are saying if the US annexes Greenland by force, this is the end of NATO.
Absolutely. We heard from the French Prime Minister today, Sébastien Lecornu, telling Europe that Donald Trump's comments on Greenland must be taken seriously. Now, I'm going to suggest that, in fact, this is all ahead of negotiations, and this is a very hard line that he's taking with a NATO ally. And as you say, we heard earlier on this week the European Commissioner for Defence and Space, Andrius Kubilius, warning on Monday that a US military takeover of Greenland would mean the end of NATO. Now, we have had other reaction from Europe today.
So, in other words, a lot hangs on this meeting that just concluded, and we're waiting for what really happened. John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Iranian authorities are brutally cracking down on protests that have gripped the country for over 2 weeks. This comes despite threats from President Donald Trump that the regime faces US wrath if killings of protesters continue. Benjamin Lee has the details.
Iranians again took to the streets across the country, even after security forces have reportedly killed hundreds of protesters and vowed to execute those taken prisoner. The Iranian regime has ignored warnings from President Donald Trump to stop the slaughter.
And I've canceled all meetings with the Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stops. And all I say to them is help is on its way.
A US-based right group estimate more than 2,500 people have been killed, though the true toll remains unclear amid restricted reporting. The US is urging Americans to leave Iran immediately, warning of unrest, arbitrary detention, and no diplomatic support. Officials say talks with Tehran are suspended alongside new economic pressure. Inside Iran, The judiciary is taking the lead in the crackdown, arguing that swift punishment is necessary to deter further protests.
If things are delayed, it's possible that the action we take today will be the same we take 2 months from now, and it wouldn't have the same effect.
That message is already being enforced. 26-year-old Irfan Sultani is the first known protester sentenced to death. The U.S. State Department issued a statement saying that he's not the regime's last victim, as Iran is set to begin a wave of executions against protesters. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says its forces are at their highest readiness, warning that U.S. bases in the region could be targeted if Washington intervenes. Diplomatic sources told the media that some personnel at the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East, have been advised to evacuate as a precaution. Trump has warned Iran that the U.S. is ready to intervene. The unrest began more than 2 weeks ago over worsening economic conditions before turning into a nationwide challenge to Iran's fundamentalist leadership.
I think it's too late for a gradual change. Okay. I think that we are witnessing here either a collapse or a victory of a revolution.
Iranian authorities responded with mass arrests and internet shutdowns. Across Europe, governments are warning of consequences if executions and repression proceed.
Sanctions on those responsible for the repression will be swiftly proposed.
We are now seeing the last days and weeks of this regime. It has no legitimization through elections among the population.
As pressure continues to build, events in Tehran are now being observed in both the West and Moscow for what they could mean for the balance of power in the Middle East and as a test of global influence in the region. For TVP World, Benjamin Lee.
Iranian diaspora around the world is watching the events in Iran with a mixture of hope and trepidation. TVP World spoke to an Iranian activist living in Poland who stays hopeful despite fear for her brother jailed by the regime. Kazimierz Kłysiak has her story.
This kind of situation is good because we can...
This is Rejhane Manzouri. She's lived and worked in Poland for 6 years. She's telling me about the regime in Iran and how it's not hesitating to kill people.
Even a bit, it's not important, the life of Iranian. I'm serious, I'm not exaggerating this. I was there 15 years ago, I was in the protest, I know how it looks like. They don't care, they just kill. 15 years ago, one of my classmates was blind because they shoot like this, like in face to face.
Most Iranians are hesitant to talk to the media openly in fear of repression, but Rejhane has no reason to hide anymore. On the contrary, she feels the need to speak up to try and help her family.
Someone could connect through Starlink, I could WhatsApp them, and they could call my mom and ask what they are doing. Also, she told me that my brother was arrested during one of the protests a few days ago. I really don't know which day exactly because I didn't talk with them long and I don't have that many information. But yeah, so he's in jail. And my mom was not worried about that. She was more worried about what if this Islamic Republic is not end now.
Rejhane could only speak with her mom for 2 minutes in order to avoid detection by the regime. But there is a way she can listen to her brother every day.
This is the song that he wrote and he sang. It's about this, that he's asking to let him write about what is happening in Iran, let him write about the executions, let him write about the pain that people have in Iran. And he's saying, Bezar benevisam, that it means let me write.
Can we play some
Yes.
As we listen to her jailed brother's voice, he's with us for a brief moment. And despite Rejhane's pain, she's leaving me with a message of hope.
It gives me a smile, although I'm sad and missing him, but when I hear this, I'm more proud of him. I know, as he said to my mom when they talk, he's fine. Not good, but he's fine because he's fighting for what? For his future.
Yeah.
That's it.
According to Rejhane, these protests are different. She's calling them a revolution, and she hopes her country and her brother can finally be free. For TVP World, Kazimierz Łysiak.
And a quick update on the Greenland negotiations in Washington. Judging by the comments from the Danish foreign minister, no breakthrough was achieved. He said, "We still have fundamental disagreement, but we will continue to talk." According to Estonia, hundreds of Russian veterans of the aggression on Ukraine are allowed to travel to the European Union as tourists. The small Baltic nation said it would refuse them visas, and now a senior Polish official tells TVP World that Poland will follow suit and demand action from Brussels. Piotr Miszczuk has the story.
Definitely, yes, definitely.
This is how Poland's Deputy Defense Minister Paweł Zalewski answered TVP World's question about whether Poland should speak out at the EU level on banning Russians who fought in Ukraine from entering the bloc. This comes after Estonia barred 261 Russian veterans from entry.
We must keep Europe's streets free from those with combat experience gained in wars of aggression.
The move aims to crack down on Russians with military training who could potentially perform tasks for Russian special services and get involved in organized crime, according to Estonian officials, who also say,
"This is only the beginning. We will keep working to ensure the door stays closed to Russian ex-combatants, and we call on other countries to do the same."
In 2024, some 550,000 tourist Schengen visas were granted to Russian nationals, which marks a 9% increase year-on-year. To address the issue, the EU tightened its visa policy for Russians in November 2025.
From now on, Russian nationals will no longer receive multiple entry visas. This means Russian nationals will have to apply for a new visa each time they plan to travel to the EU.
But this wasn't enough for Estonia, given what their objective is.
Our priority is to establish a unified Schengen-wide blacklist and to impose a ban on issuing Schengen visas and EU residence permits to all identified Russian former combatants.
And Estonia is hoping to make waves across the EU, analysts say.
We have seen this in the past also, that many things can be actually initiated by the member states, and at the end of the day, other states will follow, and then it becomes maybe hopefully EU policy.
It seems Estonia has already garnered support from Poland, and some promises of raising the issue at the EU level have been made.
So can you promise us to do that?
Absolutely. So I will talk to my colleagues responsible for that team in Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
For TVP World, I'm Piotr Miszczuk.
The European Union took a step closer to disbursing billions to Ukraine. This comes after a brief spat between member states over how much of the money can be spent on buying arms from American rather than European producers. Our Brussels correspondent Alex Cadier has the details.
Well, more details about that 90 billion euro loan from the European Union to Ukraine. There were big questions about what Ukraine could spend the money on. 2/3 of it will go to the country's military needs. But even in that, there was a question. Will Ukraine be allowed to buy weaponry from outside the European Union? Would it be by European only? On that, we got an answer from Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President.
The funds will be used to purchase equipment mainly from Ukraine, from the European Union and the EEA-EFTA countries. But if these necessary procurement are not possible in this region and or in due time, then it might also occasionally be possible to acquire the equipment outside the European Union.
So it won't be by European only, it will be by European first. That spending can go to Ukrainian arms manufacturers, then to European weapons makers if they have the equipment ready quickly enough. And if they do not have the equipment or cannot deliver it quickly enough to Ukraine, then Ukraine will be allowed to spend the money elsewhere, be it on American weaponry, South Korean or others. That push for buy European coming from the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who wanted to reduce European dependency on US weapons and therefore wanting European money through Ukraine to go to European manufacturers, but the European Commission acknowledging that Ukraine needs the weaponry quickly and cannot be splitting hairs over where it comes from. Now, this loan, of course, 90 billion euros, will not need to be repaid by Ukraine unless it gets reparations from Russia. It is interest-free for Ukraine, but will cost European taxpayers 3 to 4 billion euros a year in borrowing costs. Vitally, though, this money has to go to Ukraine quickly. Lawmakers in the European Parliament, leaders in the European Council will have to move very quickly to get this Commission proposal over the line, because they are trying to get this money to Ukraine by April, when the Ukrainian coffers may run dry. It also unlocks other money from the IMF and other international organizations for Ukraine. Clearly, the pressure is on to get this money to Ukraine. At least more details have now been revealed. In Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier for TVP World.
In another piece of good news for Kyiv, Warsaw said on Wednesday the decision to transfer several MiG fighter jets to Ukraine is final. Poland is said to have 14 of those sturdy Soviet-made planes, which Ukrainian forces are familiar with.
The decision has been made. We are waiting for the answer of Ukrainian side, Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. Discussions are just ongoing.
But these are like technical discussions?
It is completely technical discussion.
So the decision is there. Poland will deliver those MiGs
absolutely, and I believe also that is what I understand, that Ukrainians made a decision to accept this offer. But of course, there are some technical aspects which
secret,
which shall be clarified. As always,
including the number of these jets.
I can confirm that will be some of the.
Okay, less than 10 or.
Less than 10.
And for the full interview with Poland's Deputy Defense Minister, join me in On the Record right after World News Tonight. Russian missile attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure have plunged much of the country into cold and darkness. At the same time, Moscow appears to use covert actions to wreak similar havoc across Europe. Poland says it narrowly avoided a major blackout. Defense correspondent Zuzanna Jurek reports.
Scenes that were once endemic to Ukraine are now spreading across Central and Eastern Europe. The German capital greeted the new year in almost complete darkness following sabotage of its electricity network. The same nearly happened in Poland, as was revealed by the Polish Digital Affairs Minister Krzysztof Gawkowski.
It was the biggest attack on the energy sector we've faced in recent years, one that could have caused a blackout in late December. Poland is the most attacked country in the EU.
This latest sabotage attempt comes as Poland saw a 30% rise in cyber attacks in 2025 compared to the previous year, and in the first week of January 2026 alone, a record of nearly 3,200 attempts were reported.
Poland is effectively a frontline state, with war raging just beyond our border. We are a country that invests heavily in cyberspace, and this trend will continue at a high level.
The country's record cybersecurity spending of 700 million euros in 2025 is expected to double to 1.4 billion in 2026. So far, however, the majority of the funds have gone towards shielding what the government considers its soft underbelly, local governments.
The biggest number are state agencies, right? And these are different types of cyber strikes. So far, we haven't seen a great repercussion or great after effect of Russia's cyber strike on the critical infrastructure, energy grids and energy systems and so on. But this, unfortunately, is yet to come.
Hence, Warsaw is seeking to expand its cyber defensive capabilities further. In 2025, the so-called Cyber Legion, made up of civilian IT and AI experts, was established to fortify the digital frontiers. While welcoming the initiative, experts suggest that the best defense is a counteroffensive.
That would significantly elevate our potential to strike back, because, it's not only about deterring by denial, it's basically about the deterrence by punishment, basically hitting Russia back, because this is the only way you fight against the cyber strikes.
And as the Kremlin continues to diversify and escalate its hybrid warfare, it is becoming more and more apparent that the cyber front will soon be as important as the front lines. For TVP World, Zuzanna Jurek.
And we're now returning to the top stories of the day with Jan Lipavsky, former Czech foreign minister.
Hello.
Good evening,
and
Minister.
Thank you very much for having me.
welcome to TVP World.
Hello.
So we just heard from the Danish delegates in Washington that no breakthrough, but talks will continue. What is your first reaction to this?
I think it's clear that Europe has to demonstrate its firm position and to continue speak with the USA on this matter, of course.
So do you think we are going to see de-escalation now or continued pressure from Washington?
I would expect that the pressure will continue because that's how the Donald Trump's administrative operates. But it's not saying that the Europe cannot make steps that will be very positive. And, you know, we are in a times of geopolitics. The power matters, so Europe and Denmark will have to find a way how to generate a power. So that what makes matters. But the dialogue is very important. And we have to be quite serious about keeping NATO alive. And it's not only about security interest of the United States in High North, specifically in Greenland, but it's also about US interest in Europe, about having military bases in Europe, because this also serves as a way how the US can project power, not only towards Russia, but also to the Middle East and Africa.
So we've had a number of European leaders saying that they would send troops to Greenland. I think Germany, the Swedes, some other Nordic countries. Is this the correct response to send troops as if they were trying to forestall a US invasion?
I would not frame it as a way as a prevent the U.S. invasion. I would rather frame it as a way how to project power there, because the U.S. concern is in regard of Russia and China being more active in this high north space, which is now opening with climate change. And I give you one example how, for example, Czechia is sending planes to Baltic states to do air policing, but we are also sending planes to Iceland for air policing. So maybe we should be asking ourselves more, what can European states do for the security of High North?
But at the same time, the European nations are really preoccupied with Ukraine defense, and they're already overstretched there. So do you now expect the European nations to take care of both Ukraine, which is what Donald Trump asked them to do, and now also demonstrate commitment to defend the Arctic? Is that possible?
I think this is a clear message to all European nations that we have to increase our military expenditures. And it is the Donald Trump who is speaking about 5% of GDP being invested into military, 3.5%, the hard defense spending, and 1.5% those connected enablers of defense. Many European states are not doing enough. So it's just another warning that the challenges might be multiple. High North, Russia threat, also South, Middle East, Europe is having all those issues at one time, and the crises are not picking their times as we see it fit, but they just happen.
Denmark and other European allies warn that if Donald Trump follows on his threat to annex Greenland, it will mean the end of NATO. How real is this risk?
I think we are living in a world when things happened. And 4 years ago, if you would ask me that Russia will invade Ukraine, I would not be saying, yes, this is for sure. Definitely, I was not ready to imagine it. But now we are living in the times when things just happened. So we have to be serious, and we have to be serious in a way how Europe, how Denmark and other allies are ready to project power in High North, and to prevent such scenarios, how breaking up the transatlantic relationship.
So
but
in other words,
it will require our strength, our European strength.
So in other words, you're saying that there has to be a plan B, a European NATO, if you will.
I am not a friend of such ideas. I'm a friend of the idea that the NATO will be kept in place, because I think it's too big luxury not to have a good relationship between Europe and America.
Right. So what does it all mean for Central and Eastern Europe? It's very often perceived as very close to the US, traditionally close to the US. And we saw this national security strategy from Washington in December, which sort of suggested that Central Europe should drift away from the West. Is this, you know, how should countries in this region cope with this challenge?
So it is definitely a destruction from our focus on the main threat, which is Russia invasion of Ukraine and Russian hybrid warfare. But it's only confirmation of the fact that we have to invest into our defense. I don't want to repeat much, but definitely it's another level of pressure on NATO and on European readiness.
And what do you make of these suggestions which come up from time to time in Central and Eastern Europe, that countries in this region should form some kind of a bloc within the bloc, stretching from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, so-called intermarium? What is your opinion on this?
There are many ideas of that. There is many formats. One of them is intermaria. We have V4, we have Slavic format, we have Central European platforms. And all those formats works only when there is alignment in interest of all actors. What is really important that there will continue to be investment into north to south infrastructure, highways, railways, and there's a Poland who is a really leader of this Three Seas initiative, and I think this is a positive project. And Czechia is part of that, even though we are not investing huge money into that.
But investment, pardon me for...
believe in... Sorry?
Pardon me for interrupting you, but, you know, infrastructure projects is one thing, but political, some kind of integration, if you will, political integration, that's a completely different story, isn't it?
I think the answer for the political integration is the EU.
Right. Okay, so let me ask you another question. Your government, which lost power recently, was very firmly supporting Ukraine. You led an initiative to arm Ukraine with shells. Now we have a new Czech government led by Prime Minister Andrej Babiš. How do you assess his performance so far on the question of supporting Ukraine?
So, just to be clear, I'm now sitting in the city of Prague in my parliamentarian office, and there is a motion for the confidence vote for the government, as the constitution says, because the newly formed government has to ask for confidence. And tomorrow I will have a critical speech. I think there were many questions regarding the new stance of the government, and the question number one was what will be the future of the Czech ammunition initiative. And in this regard, it was a relief for the former government and the current opposition that the current government decided that the Czech ammunition initiative will continue, even though I'm not happy from the statement that the government will not put new resources into that.
But do you subscribe to this opinion that a piece of something is better than all of nothing in this particular case?
Absolutely, absolutely. It will be my role to push the current government to stay as much as possible in the camp of countries supporting Ukraine's fight for its freedom and independence. But there's a part of Czech society which don't want to hear much about Ukraine, and the new government is trying to feed for their feelings.
Minister, thank you. We're running out of time, so very quickly, last question. The most pro-Russian EU government, namely that of Viktor Orban, is facing a challenge in an election in April. How important is that election?
This is a very important election. I think I have witnessed so many European councils, foreign affairs councils, so many NATO meetings where Hungary was really blocking any reasonable progress, or it was very difficult to get the agreement on sanctions and other measures. So the question is, will happen a change in Hungary or not? I cannot say that for sure, but definitely those are major elections, and we should follow that.
Jan Lipavsky, former Czech foreign minister, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much for watching World News Tonight, but stay on for an interview with Polish Deputy Defense Minister.